just before the pandemic, and I think it was quite a bit before the pandemic, actually, when we were at the old KPFT studio, I did a piece titled Republicans Are Setting Up the Courts for Minority Rule, Even in a More Progressive Country. That was the title of that piece. And, after I did that, I cut that clip out from the show several years ago. This last Supreme Court session proves everything that was said several years ago. I think this clip is 5 years old. I put it up 3 years ago, but I think it's 5 years old. The first thing I want to do is I want to play that clip because it is where we finally got to. Scary, but it's where we finally got to. Let's go ahead and play that clip. That piece that I played on the Constitution, when we talk about the merits of the Constitution, what I wanted to do with that argument about the Constitution and what Trump via McConnell is doing with the Supreme Court, with the district courts, with the circuit courts, is to explain something important to you. It's not enough for us to go out there and just say we want to win the presidency or we want to win this Congress seat or anything. We have to change the mold of the country, the psyche of the country, because there's so much that they know that most people don't. Like when McConnell is playing with the Supreme Court and playing with the district court and playing with the circuit court, a lot of people sit back and they don't think it has much impact on them. We are trying to establish a more perfect union. We are trying to establish a system that works for everybody, which means we no longer allow a plutocracy to take it all. But you know what? The American population is wising up, but they're already preparing for a wise population, and they're using the Constitution to prepare for that wise population. How so? Everybody who studied their government classes understand there's a judiciary, a legislative, and a executive. The legislative makes the laws, the executive executes the laws, and the judiciary interprets the law's constitutionality. Well, if we are going to win all these new elections and we are going to win the presidency, the only help the plutocracy could possibly have is the only undemocratic portion of the American system that was designed constitutionally, and that is the judiciary. The judiciary can take any piece of law that the legislative branch passes and the executive branch affirms and say a corporation who now owns all these judges can now say, well, that law is unconstitutional and it then cannot be implemented. We already have gerrymandering that has made the country a country that's not ruled by most. California has probably 40 million people or more, however million they have. And some of the Dakotas have a few 100,000. And both of them get 2 senators. Wow, that's a lot of power for a little bit of people. And now the Supreme Court is preeminent. The Supreme Court is undeniably the most powerful branch of the government, and a lot of people don't tell you that. They always talk about, oh, we have the checks and balances. There ain't no check against the Supreme Court unless we're going to then implement the difficult thing that's called impeachment. But constitutionally, you can only impeach judges with either 3/5 or 3/4. I don't remember the number, which means you have to have a hell of a supermajority in Congress to do what you have to do. So, folks, the way they intend to destroy the Roman intelligent middle class is to do the constitutionally undemocratic thing, and that is to use the courts. And that is to use the courts. I did that, I think it was 5 years ago. And as Donald Trump faster than anybody, of course, now Biden has sort of mitigated that. They filled up the judiciary with a lot of incompetent ideologues during the Trump administration. And of course, Trump, a president that lasted 1 term, appointed 3 justices, 1.5 of them being stolen. In other words, they stole number 1 and they stole number 3, kinda, in that when they appointed Barrett, I think it's Barrett, the one that they, it was again, just right before the election. So what I'm trying to say is the reason they are so concerned about that judiciary, about the Supreme Court, is that under the current terms, the only option that you can have when you know that the policies you don't support, Republican policies proper, when you know your policies are not what America wants, and you know that you are electing a Congress and a president that more so than not decide that they want to support the American people, they want to make sure that American people get what they deserve, then what it is. Well, I did a TikTok last night because, I'm passionate about what's been happening to the Supreme Court. I'm passionate about what's happening in America because, for me, it's all about people. For us, it should always be about people. So I did a 1-minute TikTok. I want to play the TikTok that I did last night because it's funny. As soon as I threw it out, it was like it got 1,000 hits right away, right? And it was like for me that said this is why I'm glad that happens because we want people to know this stuff. So here is that TikTok, and then we'll go ahead and move on. But before I play that 1-minute TikTok, I want to say, what are your thoughts? Do you really understand what's being done in the Supreme Court? It's not about abortion. It's not about affirmative action. It's not about student loan. Those are very, very important. Those are rights, all that were snatched away from us. Snatched away because 6 people said, that's what we can do. That's what the plutocracy wants us to do. That's what we will do. Right? But it's not about that. For all for all of MAGA that is cheering the demise of affirmative action, for all of MAGA that is out there thinking they don't want abortion. Of course, I have friends who are MAGA, and one of them recently, daughter got knocked up, and you know what they did? They're MAGA supporting all this judgment, and they took their kid to where again? Cross state lines, baby. And but that's another story. And it's not only about student loan, even in as much as MAGA can be saying, great Supreme Court, but half of the folks that got hit or that will get hit if the president doesn't mitigate what the Supreme Court did with the student loan issue are not going to be Democrats. They're going to be Republicans and independents whose personal economy was hit by the Supreme Court's decision. So you had a Supreme Court with the abortion decision hits women's personal economies, not only their bodies, but their personal economies. With the affirmative action, minorities from LGBTQ to Latinos, Black people, Asian, a lot of folks that affirmative action didn't give an upper hand. It's not what it did. It said, recognize all those who are qualified. So all of those people's personal economies, as the prejudices of some come to the realities. And then, of course, we have the loan. So folks, right now it may be affecting a particular group that the Supreme Court is now preeminent. But do remember, ultimately, it'll affect all. I'm going to give that a little bit more context after I play it's actually like a 42-second TikTok. Here we go with it, my folks.
Whether you agree with the recent Supreme Court decision is not the issue. What's new is that 6 of the 9 justices on the court, a supermajority with many of their recent decisions, expose a flaw in our Constitution. These 6 Supreme Court justices have shown that they will rule the nation irrespective of what the majority of Congress and the president we elect vote into law on our behalf. This means the United States is ruled by 6 conservatives, and we will only get the laws and policies the billionaires demand that these justices allow. No to healthcare for all. No to family leave. No to living wage. No to subsidized daycare. No to a clean environment. No to renewable energy. That is what you get when you have 6 unelected justices that rule the nation.
Yes, that is what you get when you have 6 unelected judges appointed by a wannabe autocrat. Well, 3 of them have a wannabe autocrat. That is what we get. We get into office people who really has no care about the average person, and they'll use whomever they can to get that. And right now, for all my MAGA brothers and sisters, and I love you guys, I'm telling you, I have no animosity against any, and I repeat, any American. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're, I have no animosity against any Americans, because there's one thing I know, that the condition that we are in, the current state of degradation before we recover, is not your fault. It is an orchestrated effort to dumbify a country to ensure that it will support that not which it's their own interests, but the interest of a few. The environment affects us all. A living wage if it doesn't affect us because we may be doing very well, it affects many in our families, people that we love. So whenever we are doing things that are anti-social, anti-helping our fellow man, remember that as you support those particular types of policies, you're also supporting policies against people you purport to love, against many times your own blood. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.